This week we are joined by Malou and Bill Bancroft, the originators of Honduras Threads, an exciting program that is changing lives in Honduras. The show is sponsored by Sassy Jack Stitchery. It's Nashville market time, and Kim will be traveling to the show to bring back your pre-ordered charts, threads, and other stitching goodies. Go to sassyjackstitchery.com and place your order now so you'll be among the first to have the latest designs. While you're at the Sassy Jacks website, sign up for the Cosmo Thread Club and join the Sassy Jacks Customer Loyalty Club. Use Cosmo Threads to stitch your new charts and add to your stitching fun with the many benefits of the Loyalty Club. Make Sassy Jack Stitchery your local needlework store at sassyjackstitchery.com. Thanks to the folks at Sassy Jacks for sponsoring this show with Bill and Malou Bancroft of Honduras Threads. Bill and Malou will also be with us for the Fiber Talk Stitch Hour, February 21 at 8 p.m. Eastern, when we'll be talking about the stitched products created by the ladies in Honduras. Enjoy the show, and then head to sassyjackstitchery.com and place your Nashville market pre-order. Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Beth Ellicott.
And you're listening to Fiber Talk, the twice weekly podcast for needlework artists. Our artist this week from Honduras Threads, Malou Bancroft. Malou, welcome.
Thank you.
And Bill Bancroft, husband of. Welcome, Bill.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Glad to be with you.
Oh, yeah. Bill wrote to me a couple weeks ago and just basically to let me know and say, hey, if you want to do a show. And we looked into Honduras Threads, and yeah, we want to do a show. We got to talk about this stuff. This is cool. So you guys started and organized and kind of run this thing anymore. We'll get into that a little bit more. But one or the other of you, what is Honduras Threads, just so people have something to start with?
Well, it is a nonprofit in the United States, a 501c3 that is working with women in Honduras in rural areas around the capital of Tegucigalpa. And they do embroidery and they're expanding their work all the time now, doing some weaving. So the main thing is that it is to provide jobs for them. The problem that we discovered when we went on a mission trip to one of these little communities outside of Tegucigalpa was that there was no work for the women without leaving their families, either to have to come to the United States or to work in Tegucigalpa as a live-in domestic during the week and only get to see their families on the weekend, on Sunday afternoon, basically.
Oh.
So it was a miserable existence for them if they had children or if they were young and were leaving their parents for the week. So they just needed a way to make money in their own community. And this was an idea that we came up with in consultation with some of the people there in Honduras, and we just sort of took off from there. That was in 2002.
It exploded.
Yes.
Yeah. So take us back to that mission trip then. So you just go on a mission trip through your church, and you see that this is a problem, and so then. How do you go from there? I mean, you're visitors in a foreign country, and you have an idea, and I wouldn't know how to begin to approach.
We didn't really know either.
Oh, okay.
And the problem was that we were trying to figure all this out during the year after we had left that first year, and so we got some information that really wasn't all that accurate, which was that all the women learned how to embroider when they're little girls. So we were thinking they were fairly experienced or accomplished embroiderers, which turned out not to be true.
Oh, oops.
They get like a week of embroidery in school as little kids. And And most of them hadn't done any since then. Sort of knew one stitch, but didn't do that very well. So it was a challenge when we got there with embroidery, where to do. And as we discovered that, we were saying, well, is there something else that you would rather do? And then, no, they all wanted to learn how to do this. So, and when we started, we weren't sure how many women might want to do it. We thought maybe 8 or 10 at the most. And the first morning we had 22 women who showed up and by the end of the second week that we were there, we had 2 or 3 more, and they were just determined they wanted to learn how to do it. So that took a while.
Yeah.
But
all right. So Malou, you're a needleworker yourself, so that this gives you at least a foundation.
Yes, I like to. Not so much. I hadn't done so much embroidery as I had done needlepoint and knitting, but I tried to brush up on the embroidery fast so that I could teach them.
Okay, so it falls on you to do the teaching then. Oh boy.
And well, 2 or 3 of us did it, and what happened was that after we left, they made several pieces that, well, about 30, 40 some that they sent up to us, and they were just awful. It was just, I just wanted to cry when I opened the box, because I thought, oh no, because there wasn't a single thing we could sell as it was. And they got off of the design and off of the size, and it was just, there really wasn't anything to salvage out of all that. So no. I had to go back and say to them, we really can't sell any of this. Could you sell any of it here? And they all said no, So again, there was this commitment from them that that's what they wanted to learn to do, and they just dug in and started.
So you have this idea. It must have been quite a plane ride home. So you have this idea of, we can help these people these women create a business that they can sell embroidered items, and then you get shocked to learn that you're actually going to have to teach them how to embroider. But then how does the business end? Bill, you handle that. How does the business end of things get set up? I mean, that can't be easy either.
No, it really wasn't. So right there at the beginning, we were still in mission mode, right? So it was going back, to them and continuing to teach. From a business perspective, we felt like, well, whatever they produce, it's going to be so cool that we could sell it easily, like at our parish church, right? In the bookstore, or friends, the stuff will fly off the shelves. And alas, the stuff did sell, but not nearly in the kind of volume that we thought it would sell. Mm-hmm. And so from a business perspective, so again, we started this in 2002, and all the technology over the last 22 years has become much more mature and so on. So websites and online stores and so on, those came some years later. I remember in those first 3 or 4 years of mission trips, there were no real cell phones. There was no communication, and so the business was really primitive. It was really, can we get them to make really good product, and then what they sent to us, could we sell it to friends and parishioners and so forth? And it was very informal. In terms of, well, I guess I could go a little bit deeper into this. We did figure out that churches are not great places to run businesses like this. So we set up so we incorporated in Texas in 2004, I think, and then applied to the IRS and got our 501c3 designation then. And so we were able then to put a board together. We were able then to, kind of set pricing. And so that was kind of the business. And then this sort of informal, I guess, yeah. So right around that time, 2005, 2006, we took a booth at the New York International Gift Fair. And we went 5 times, I think. Lou went up and put the booth together, and we stayed at friends and family, and you had to be juried basically to get into that show. And we did sell some stuff, sort of across the country, small shop owners, and then. But then we decided, that wasn't working in terms of the volume that we needed, and so we stopped that. But you can see how we reached out to different businesses and found different ways to sell the product on behalf of the women who were making it. I think another year we were in the Horchow catalog, for example, and we had 2 or 3 items. The nature of retailing. So those were basically our customers. We found that small retailers were they were kind of they're unusual people, a lot of them, and so they had a kind of a different take on how to sell it.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like at least initially the novelty of it being handmade in Honduras was your sales pitch. Was the quality good enough then that you could sell, or were you still working on that?
Well, the quality was good enough to sell, but it got better,
Okay.
and it got better, dramatically better. And one of the key elements.
Malou's down there cracking the whip.
Well, yeah, and not only that, one of the key elements was one of the Hondurans that we worked with, who I had worked with on these mission trips, and she'd helped us with, construction projects and all kinds of other projects. She was there. She was here and there, and for circumstances that were kind of special. And so we would have meetings with her here, and then she would go back there and work with the women and get them to do what Malou had taught them.
Okay. And obviously they were receptive and willing to work hard to get things up to grade then.
Right. Yeah, Malou, tell them about that.
And they and as far as the business side of it, and on the Honduras end, they were just informal co-ops. And another big revelation for us was that these 22 women that showed up for that first couple of weeks, it turned out that they weren't all from this one community. They were from 4 different communities. And they, as we got to know them, we learned all this, that they were walking. One of the communities was 3 hours away walking. So those women were leaving before dawn and not getting home till after dark to be able to work. And they were saying to us at that point, well, and the other 2 communities were an hour and a half walk. So it was just, they were saying, if you could put together a co-op for our community, there are a lot more women who could work, but they either have babies or toddlers or are taking care of parents or whatever, and can't make the trip back and forth. So it grew real fast in those first 3 or 4 years, because they just needed to have one in each community. And so in each time we had to do a startup, get the supplies that they needed, and tables and chairs to work on, and then the fabric and the thread and all those things that they needed to get going, and put in a little money to pay them as they were learning and getting good enough that their pieces would sell. Mm-hmm. So that buildup was kind of that was difficult, but it was also really good because then more women could work. So it's been, but so they were thinking of themselves as co-ops, and each time I would go down, I walk in and say, okay, whose business is this? And they'd all, be stitching or something and not answer. And then finally I'd say, whose business is it? Then finally they'd say ours, but you just knew they didn't really feel ownership yet.
Okay.
They I think had a hard time I think they thought they worked for us, even though we told them, of course, that they didn't, that they owned it, but they just didn't quite understand that they could own something themselves.
Well, and that's one of the things that I wondered about was the culture of, for women to own a business and to create their own product for sale. I mean, in any culture, that can be a challenge. Even sadly here in the United States, that can be a challenge. But so that's quite a barrier to get over then.
Yes. Yeah, it was. And they, it's taken them a while. And now, of course, it's developed over the years, and we can talk about that more. But now they are officially a social enterprise that is registered with the Honduran government, and now they understand that it's theirs, and they've learned much more about the business side of it, which we can talk about in a minute. But it was just at the beginning, they just had no clue. It was interesting because the president that was elected of this first group, and everybody still had to go to Santa Cruz Arriba, where the first co-op was, for a while until we could get the others started. And the president would have a sign-in sheet by the door, and the women had to sign in when they came in. And I said, this way you'll know who is here working and how long, and they have to sign out when they leave. So when I went back about 3 months later, she had them signing out for lunch and signing back in again after lunch. She wasn't going to pay them for lunch. So she was making very strict rules about how all this went. Yeah. So she was really key to getting it all working at the beginning. That was great.
So how are you funding this thing? I mean, where are supplies coming from? You passing the plate at church, or how are you doing that?
Well, we had a lot of, at the beginning we had donations, and because we didn't know how it was all going to work and all that, whether it was going to work, we had donations of fabrics, and had a huge, wonderful donation of DMC pearl cotton at number 5. It was incredible. This one woman had done a lot of embroidery, and she had a whole antique chest of drawers that was full of DMC pearl cotton.
We know people like that. Yeah, we know people like that.
We do know people like that. Well, we're not going to discuss that right now.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, she wasn't going to do it anymore. And she was, and she said, you can have any of this or all of this. And I said, oh my gosh. So we took it all. And so a lot of the supplies, we did have to get, scissors and some plastic tubs and all that to store things in. And we discovered more and more things that we needed once we got there. But it was the basic supplies were all donated. And that donation of fabrics and everything kind of kept going. People would bring things to the church, and they'd call and say, you have a donation here, you want to pick it up? So it just kept going. And so every year we've had a fabric drive, in the spring usually. And people and it has spread, not just people cleaning out their closets, but it's at home. But we've, had had donations from designers and people who make drapery or draperies or something like that. All the end pieces they have. So we've gotten, it's been really good. We do have to buy some fabrics, and that is mostly the background fabric because we need bigger pieces of it. And it's so heavy to get down there. So I have bought background fabric in Honduras. Not all of it, but I do have to supplement from and buying it there. And I like to buy it there. The only problem is that they don't require in Honduras that fabrics have the fiber content listed officially. And so when we go to label it then for customs coming into the United States, we had to train the women how to figure out what the fiber content was as closely as possible, whether it's, wadding it up in your hand and seeing if it creases or not, or whether it's lighting it to see if there's acrylic or whatever.
Polyester, yeah.
So, and seeing what the ash is like so you can decide the fiber content. So they've had to learn a lot of things about fiber to get the things into the United States.
So just another small add to that. We had been bringing the stuff back with us in bags through customs, and at one point the customs people said, "Well, no, we're not going to let you do that," and they impounded several bags full of the pillow covers, and I think this was when there were no labels inside that said the content, right?
Right.
And so Malou had to have labels made, and she had to go to a warehouse, and she had to iron in the labels one by one into several hundred of these pillow covers.
Yeah, 300.
300, and she did it standing up on a pallet. And that's how we finally got that particular shipment out of customs, and so we could sell it.
Yeah, there are things you learn that you just didn't really want to know or think you had to know ever. And customs was one of them. They said, "Well, you're an importer," and I had never thought of myself as an importer. So you had to, they had new regulations. So all of a sudden, there we were.
No, that's what intrigues me about this whole thing is you start out with a simple idea to help some people, and then look how now you're buying fabric in Honduras and burning it to figure out content. I mean, look at all the things that just offshoots of a simple idea. And but if you want if you want to move stuff across international borders, that's what you have to do, I guess. Wow.
That's right.
Yeah. So another challenge was the Chinese cost of fabric, and it drove the Honduran. We had one great mill in Honduras that was making lots of really good solid fabric that we could use for
100% cotton. It was great.
and they went out of business because they couldn't compete with the Chinese. So that was kind of an additional layer of, okay, now how do we solve this problem, right? So, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to set that one aside and go back to where did the designs come from? What did you say? How did you figure out what you were going to have them make, or maybe they said this is what we'd like to make, and then how did these designs get put together? That had to be yet another whole operation.
It was, and it was just serendipity. It was the women. First of all, if you look at the fiber arts from Mexico or Guatemala or somewhere where they have had that tradition for centuries, probably, you can recognize their style and their kind of embroidery and all that. Honduras didn't have that. and they had a very the only thing that I found were cloths to wrap around tortillas that would have a little embroidery in the corner or something. There isn't a traditional embroidery.
She's right. There was nothing indigenous in Honduras, and that despite the fact that the
But you
Lenca.
can't say that because one lady got really upset with me when I said there was no indigenous embroidery in Honduras. Evidently, there's some somewhere, but I haven't seen it yet. So,
Right, it's not dominant, right?
No.
It's not dominant like Guatemala is, for
not at
example.
all.
Yeah, and that despite that they do some terrific stuff with wood and carving, and they also do some terrific stuff in pottery, particularly black and white or black and cream in pottery. But the women that we were working with didn't really have any sense of that. So the designs that we used came from a Dallas artist who came with us on one of those first mission trips, and she's well known here in the region, and she came up with the first designs, and there were several of them. Go ahead, Malou.
Well, she's very influenced in her art by the stitching, both in quilting and embroidery, that she saw her mother and grandmother do as she was growing up. So some of her paintings have stitches in them. I mean, she paints the stitches on. She said, "I can't stitch," and I said, "Well, we can't paint, so that doesn't matter." So it just translates so well back into fabric. So it's wonderful, and she just was really excited about doing it and giving us her designs, so that we could, so the women could keep making them, and the women love her designs. So
that
they
helps.
were really happy. Yes, they were very happy. And when I would ask them if they had ideas for designs, they'd say, no, we can't design. Now they do, and I can tell you more about that.
Well, tell us. Yeah,
tell us about it, because that was my next question. Is like, so do the women now, have they taken up designing?
They have. What happened was that we went on I took 4 of them from their board on a marketing trip to Roatan, which is the island right off of Honduras. It's part of Honduras, but it is known for scuba diving and all that, and has a lot of tourists who come aboard cruise ships too. And so they have a lot of stores there, and we thought, well, that might be a good place to market. So we took the women there, and one of the suggestions from one of the stores, or 2 of the suggestions from one of the store owners, were to make Christmas ornaments, because people buy them year-round to bring back as souvenirs. And particularly if we did it with fabric, they wouldn't be breakable. It'd be easy to pack. And the other thing was cards, greeting cards. So which we hadn't thought about at all. And so the women wanted to do both of those. And when we got back, I said, well, Pamela Nelson, who is the artist who was designing things for us, said she's doing a big show and she's really busy with it right now and won't be able to design these. And so I think you all could make some designs. And they did. They took off with it, and they did all the designs for the cards and for the ornaments. And some of them are sea life, like starfish and several different fish, angelfish. Then they also did some that just have embroidery stitches on them, so they could be for a birthday or any occasion. Now they're doing, this past couple of years, they've done Christmas cards. This year they've done Valentine's too. And then the Christmas ornaments are also, there are quite a few that are sea life, and then also angels and a nativity scene and snowmen, and so they've really expanded on that. And now they're beginning to another new product that we're just getting started is pins, like little brooches, and one of the women designed one of those that's a feather, and they're working on some other designs right now. So they're beginning to do some designs of their own, and that's really exciting.
Well, that's great. That's just that much more ownership. Yeah.
Yes, and confidence in what they can do.
Right.
So
right.
That's very exciting.
So what happened to the two of you? This sounds like this became a full-time endeavor at some point. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I smell it. Yep.
It's a full-time endeavor, and now for two of us almost. There's just, because we're a nonprofit and because we depend on volunteers a lot, it just takes more time, and we don't. I mean, I'm sure that there are probably some apps that we could use that would make everything work faster and more easily, but they cost money because you have to switch it. It's like switching over from these little handwritten tags that we have and to using the code. Bill, what's
barcodes?
Barcodes. That's it. We probably could save a lot of time and money in the end, but we would have to put out a lot of time and money to switch over. So there are things like that I'm sure we are doing that are taking more time than they should. But it's either time or money. That's what
right.
And so we raise money. The women decided all on their own several years ago. Now, I guess it's been 12 or 15 years ago now, that they wanted to donate back to, we give them 100% of the sales of their products. And then they wanted to donate back to Honduras Threads 30% of that to help cover the cost of materials. So that was really nice. It is not, and it was phenomenal because at that point they didn't all work together all the time, and so it was pretty amazing that they all got together and decided to do that. And the main thing is that it does not cover all of the costs of materials, but it makes a big dent in it. So that's helped a lot. And now that they're selling more, our sales are up. They may be able to increase that a little bit and cover more of their costs. Mm-hmm. But we'll see how that goes. But anyway, they're doing well with that, and so we have some income from that, and then we have to raise money in the United States too. So we have a couple of fundraising events or letters that go out each year, and Bill can tell you more about that in a few minutes. I think we'll get to the exhibitions that we've been doing these last 2 years. So there's always fundraising to do. There's always sales to do, and the huge challenge for us is marketing, because we don't have a lot of money for ads or something like that, and we've needed to learn how to use social media to get people to our website. We've redone the website this past year, so I think it works better now, and we're doing better on the social media, but there's so many things. And possibly, if we were in our 30s or something, we might be better at the social media than we are. But anyway, it's it's a challenge always finding market.
Yeah.
Right, right. So do the women all work together in the same building, or
No,
how does that
no,
work?
they don't. They pretty much work together in each community. But the whole idea was to be able to work in your community and not have to leave every day. They get together when they have a project that all of them are going to be working on, and they talk about how it's going to work, and they get all their supplies together, and then go back out into their community to do the work on it. In some communities, they have a place to work. Two of them have a room in a church in the community that's theirs, that they can keep things in and go there to work. And then in the others, it's at somebody's house that has enough room for everybody to get together. They don't all work together every single day, but when they do work together, they do better. It's really interesting. They see what the other one's doing, and they talk about stitches or whatever that they're going to use on certain things. So if they're working together, they just do better.
Well, I think that's true for all of us, though, because I know when you get together with your friends, you might be working on something and then you feed off each other. You're like, oh, but why don't you try this? Or maybe this color would look a little better. Or, oh, I like your idea. I'm going to put it on my piece. Right. There's that sense of community that that just helps.
And I'm always so amazed that they can do, they made have made a lot of the pillows in pairs. And so sometimes you can get a pair. Sometimes one of them has sold and we don't have the second one. So it just depends. But they have made a lot of them in pairs. And when you get the list in of inventory that's just been sent up, it will have two different people who made them, but they look exactly alike. It's just so amazing how they can do that. And so they do, you can tell they feed off of each other, and they can make them that are identical. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I think the latest example of them working together is with the two floor looms that we've actually put into service, were donated in the last couple of years. One of them, so there are five villages basically where these women live, and one of the looms is in one area and another one in another area, and so they have to go to the loom obviously to do the weaving, and they've been teaching. We had a master weaver from Dallas come with us twice now to teach, but she couldn't teach everything to everybody, and the women there have picked up on what she taught, and they are transferring that knowledge to their co-workers there. So that's another kind of way that they're coming together.
So they didn't have a weaving background in Honduras that you know of?
Okay, so great question. The women there, so in Guatemala, it's pretty much Maya, and there is a Maya influence in part of Honduras. Copan is a big sort of center, but the Lenca used to know how to weave. The Lenca is similar to the Maya in terms of indigenous. And they used to know how to weave, but they have lost that pretty much. There are half a dozen Lenca in another part of Honduras, probably 6-7 hours away from where we're working, who do have some looms and are doing some weaving. But other than that, the art has been lost. And so it's been interesting to reintroduce it. And you might say, well, why did we decide to do that? well, we went to this other place to buy fabric to make shawls, and then we were successful the first time, and then the then First Lady of Honduras got interested, and they bumped the price up so high that we couldn't really make any money to buy fabric from them to make shawls. So we're sitting around having dinner and saying, well, why don't we just buy some looms, and they'll learn how to weave, and then that's another thing that they can add to their repertoire. And so that's what we did. And so the first, because we just started it, we had COVID got in the way. But because we just started it, we now have enough fabric that they have made to turn into shawls for, I don't know, like 8, 10, 12, just in the next couple of months. They will embroider those shawls as well. So, and they're quite stunning.
I love that the company priced themselves right out of the job. Yeah, take that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, get greedy. See what happens. Yep. Yeah. So how long did it take before the skill level was high enough and the production was high enough that you could count on a steady stream of product to sell? Was it 2-3 years or longer?
No, it was probably 2 years. I mean, they have kept getting better and better, but things were, we could sell what they were making at 2 years pretty well. Didn't have much that wasn't up to par. Now it's just more sophisticated and more beautiful. I mean, they've gotten better and better and better. Long ago, they passed up anything I could teach them. So they just, I took them some books of embroidery stitches and all that at the beginning, and now they make up their own as well as use all these books. So they'll just say, "Oh, I just do this one. I just made this up," and so they are very creative with it. And the other thing that they really own is the colors. It's like the artist here who designs all these things, Pamela said, you can't, it doesn't say Honduras. But what it says is, you can tell it's not made in Kansas. Because it's just a different color sense and combination of colors that works really well together, but it's just different than American combinations of colors sometimes. Yeah. So, and they love the bright colors and have it. They call them alegre and happy. And if you ask them to do something on a white background in one color of embroidery, they call that triste, which is sad. So if you say, for example, you want a white pillow with some light blue embroidery, all of the design in a light blue or something, they think that's very triste. So it's very interesting that we had one of our artists here who had participated in the exhibition last year went with us to Honduras this past summer, and she was doing some color, doing one class with them on color, and so she was trying to explain to them that, and it was so good for them to hear the difference when she's doing something that is a commission from someone. She does some beautiful wall hangings and they're amazing. And so she's doing it as a commission. Then she has to listen to what the person wants and pay attention to that, whether it's a company that's doing it for a lobby of their building or an individual who wants it for their living room or something. She has to pay attention to the size and the colors and all that the person who's ordering it wants. And she said, so that is one kind of work. That's something where I am doing what the customer asks for. If I'm doing it for an exhibition of my work in an art gallery, then I can do anything I want. Then I can use any colors and I can make it any size and I can, choose whatever I want to do. So it's two different ways of looking at it. And it was really interesting. The women really caught on to that because they have had to do some colors, that they didn't particularly think were great.
Customer's right. The customer's always right. Yeah.
That all artists are doing that if they're doing some commissions too. So interesting.
Talk about those commissions, because J.W. Marriott, that's not small potatoes. So you've had some significant projects then.
We've had 1,400 pillows for 2 hotels in Costa Rica. One was the J.W. Marriott on the coast, and yes, Guanacaste, and the other was the Intercontinental in San Jose. So they were owned or run by the same board. I don't quite get how that works, but anyway, the same board decided on both of them, and it was just through a friend of ours that worked with a designer here in Dallas who was working on these two the rooms for these 2 hotels, and so she said, well, it's all neutral, and I just need something that's going to make these rooms pop. And so this friend told her about our stuff and took some pillows to show her, and then we didn't hear anything for months and months and months, and then we heard they weren't going to choose any of our pillows, and then 2 weeks later we got the first purchase order. So
oh, wow.
It was pretty exciting. And at that point, I thought there were going to be 900 of them in 5 months, and they kept sending another purchase order and another one, and pretty soon it was 1,400, but still in 5 months. So I was wondering what I had done to these poor women, but anyway, they got it done, and it was in 3 parts, and so I was going back and forth trying to get all the fabric down there because I had to buy it all in the United States because of the colors they wanted and the kind of fabrics. And so it was tricky trying to get it all down there. But and then I needed to be there the 3 times that the order was finished so that I could double check it and get it to ready for the company that was going to come pick it up and get it to Costa Rica. So it was really exciting. And they figured out, I went down and said, okay, and they weren't used to working together. So I said, okay, I need the president and 1 or 2 other people from each group, and we're going to have a meeting and talk about a big order. And so then we did, and then I said, okay, so I need you all to figure out how you're going to do this. So they talked together, and they decided they were going to do all of the cutting and put all of the appliques on and have everything ready to embroider. They were going to do all of that in one location where they had more room and big tables to spread out on. And so every day, 2 or 3 people from each place were going to come and get those things ready. And at the end of the day, they would take back anything that was ready to start embroidering to the other women in their group and let them start embroidering and working on that. And they got it. They did it. They got it organized. They figured out how to do it. They lived up to all of the deadlines, and it was amazing.
Wow.
So, yep.
Wow,
a big success. And a friend of ours was in one of those hotels 2 years ago. Let's see, that was in 2008. And 2 years ago, they were in San Jose and walked into one of the rooms, and there were our pillows on the bed, and they couldn't believe it. So they've lasted well. You wonder how they're going to do in a hotel situation or something,
Right.
but it did great. So would love to have a big hotel commission again. That was terrific.
Yeah. What has been the impact on the women and their families? It's got to be huge.
It is. They are different people entirely, for the better. They're different in that they are not timid anymore about saying what they think. At first, it was just really hard to get them to give any opinions or say anything. They just wanted to embroider and not participate in discussion of anything. Well, now when you ask a question, they all want to tell you what they think about it, and it's great. It's just at first they would stand up and say, "Well, my opinion is," Now they're less formal about it, but it's so funny because they just all tell you exactly what they think about whatever it is you ask. So it's wonderful. They have run for we would call it a city council or something. It's the little board of the community that decides on things, or the water board of the community, or they are participating in the community much more in other ways too, other than just the social enterprise. So they have been incredible examples for their kids, because the kids would come after school without it. For the younger ones at noon or 1:00, they'd come down and come into the room where their moms were working and sit next to them and watch them making these things. It's just, you can tell they are so proud that their moms are making something beautiful and earning money. And it's especially fantastic for the boys to see that, because it's, a real macho society in a lot of ways. And for the boys to see what their moms can do is really, really meaningful. So I think that it's given them so much self-confidence and self-respect. They're just different people than they were before. And I think that we've been fortunate in that the dads, the husbands, and dads of ones who weren't married yet, have been pretty supportive. The dads were the hard ones at the beginning, because they didn't understand that the custom in Honduras is that you get paid every 2 weeks. So they didn't understand why their daughters were working and not getting paid every 2 weeks. So it was, at the beginning, it was hard for them to understand that. And but eventually, as the sales picked up and they got money, not every 2 weeks, but they got money when the sales were, because I would send money down after we'd had a big sale or an event or something. And so then they understood finally that they were getting paid. They just weren't getting paid every 2 weeks.
Right. This has also, I assume, been a huge difference maker in terms of putting food on the table, kids in school, clothes.
Right. And the huge thing that there's always something that comes up that you don't expect. And one of them was a few years ago now. So it's probably been 6 or 7 years now. The government of Honduras decided that school would be required through 9th grade instead of through 6th grade. That lots of the women have only a sixth grade education because that's all that was required for years and years. And so they all want their kids to go through high school at least, and lots of them want to go on to university. So the problem was that, I mean, it was really great that they were requiring people to go through ninth grade. The problem was that it costs a lot more money to do seventh, eighth, ninth grade because there aren't what we would call middle school or junior high in every community. So they have to travel. And then for high school, there are no high schools out in the rural areas. That you have to go into Tegucigalpa to go to high school. So there's definitely transportation costs for that. So what I found out was happening was that one of the women told me she had to ask her or tell her high schooler that he couldn't continue. He had to drop out of high school because his sister was ready to start seventh grade and she couldn't afford to do both. And the sister was ready to go to seventh grade. So I thought, oh, no, this is not, we can't do this. That's not going to work. So what we worked out was to share the education expenses with the family up to 50%. So they put in 50%, we put in 50%. And so now, and that covers, it's supposedly free, but it's not, because there are uniforms involved there. The school uniform, the PE uniform, and shoes that go with it, all the books, all the supplies. There's transportation in a lot of cases. There are fees. It's very interesting. It's free, but there are fees.
Yeah.
So anyway, that has been, and we call that program Educando el Futuro, which means educating the future. And that was the thing when we asked both the teenage children of the women and the women themselves what their goals were and what they wanted to achieve and all that. It was everybody except for one woman said that educating their kids was the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And all the kids said that they were all wanted to go to university. And the one woman whose children were already grown, who had a different first goal, and that was medicine for her husband, who has some terminal illness, but it's doing pretty well with the medications he's taking. So it was definitely the most important thing to all of these people was doing this education. And so that's what we've been doing, and we've just been doing that for now. I think it's 7 years. This is the 7th year.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're running out of time, as this happens every time. So let's get to how can people help?
So there are three ways I think that people can help. I think the first way is to follow us on social media, write a review, refer family and friends, share content that we've got out there, engage with our posts, and sort of cheer us on. Which is really, I think, really important because we're trying to break out of this pretty small group of family and friends of friends that have supported us over the years. So we've got to have a wider following. I think number two is if anybody has any extra DMC Pearl Cotton number 5. I'm told we can use number 3 and number 8. embroidery floss. If they have any of that, send it to us and we can get it to Honduras and they can use it and it'll be part of the items that they make. And then the third thing is donations. It takes resources, money to run this organization, and we don't have. We have a good sales volume, but because of the way so much of the money goes to the women, we have to support that with donations. We have to support the technical assistance, the raw materials, and so on. We have to support, and so donations help us with that. So those are three ways to help.
Okay, and let's go back to pearl cotton and floss. You're I'm sure looking for full skeins, DMC. Don't send scraps or leftover skeins or whatever. Or how do you approach that?
Yeah, that's correct. Because when we purchase the raw material, we purchase boxes of it, and they come in skeins, and they need to be. Yeah, they need to be in skeins. Just little scraps here and there won't work.
Right. So, all right, then when it comes to floss, food banks will often tell you, give us the money, we can do so much more with the money than if you give us 10 cans of soup. Is that the same for you, where money is a better option in terms of buying floss and fabric, or would you prefer that people send the skeins of floss?
I think money is better, and it just allows us to be more creative in terms of the raw materials that we can supply to them, and that they can then turn into a really exciting product that we can take to market up here.
Mm-hmm. No.
And other thing that allows us to do, we have mostly done one of a kinds and pairs in the past, but we are moving toward doing a few more, not like 500, but like 10 of something, or so that when it's online, you have more than one of them to sell.
Right.
So you don't have to take a picture of absolutely every single thing and have it all online. So that would allow us to buy enough of a certain fabric to have 10 pillows that were the same.
Scissors, anything like that, or you have supplied all those?
Well, we have to replace scissors from time to time. It's amazing how if you use them all day, every day, and haven't been able to find somebody who sharpens scissors in Tegucigalpa yet. So that's difficult. But we do have to buy some new scissors from time to time, and new, tape measure. Things wear out, but they're. Irons, that's the other thing. Irons wear out. It's amazing. So you just have to replace some of those things from time to time.
So, but again, if people are contributing money, replacing irons, It's easier for you than if somebody sends an iron.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another thing that money does, right? Money buys communication with them. We do a Zoom call once a week with them, with the leaders. And, we discuss all sorts of items, issues that they might have, or, orders that we might have from up here. And from time to time, they've got to have a new computer because the old one just won't work anymore, right? So money goes for those kinds of things as well. It's
and internet access too.
Internet access is another kind of an issue, right?
Yeah.
So, right.
And your webpage is, which I did spend quite a time. You did take about a good hour of my life yesterday, just perusing those and saying, "Oh, that's nice. Oh, look at that. Oh," and I'm like, "Okay, keep moving."
Yeah,
keep moving.
Yeah. That's that. So we redid that a year ago, and it took a lot of time and some money to do that. So it's when you think about how this business needs to grow to embrace more than just the people you know across the street or across town. You just have to go to the internet, and there's all kinds of, I don't know, there's fees that there's just a lot there to do and to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing what one mission trip has delivered. Wow. Yeah.
It is amazing, isn't it?
and my mind's just sitting here. How many lives have been changed dramatically just because of this? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we talk about social capital, and we talk about social capital. If you have enough food, and they live in an area where there's food insecurity for sure. They live in an area where medical help and assistance is either very expensive or non-existent, and education is so important, and yet there's so little of it that's available to them one way or another. So something like this, where they can where money comes into a community, it improves health, which continues to improve the community even more, education and so on. You can see how you get to a virtuous circle of things that make lives better, and allows them to stay where they are, as opposed to joining the diaspora, going anywhere else in the world.
Well, it's absolutely fantastic. Thanks to Bill and Malou. Thanks so much for sharing this with us. HondurasThreads.org is the website. All the information is there. And be careful. Yeah, like Beth said, you'll get sucked in. It's a fun ride. It's a fun ride.
Yes.
Also on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, but HondurasThreads.org is the place to start. Boy, Bill and Malou, applause to you guys for making this happen and all that you've done. What a tremendous effort and difference making. Really fantastic. So thanks for sharing this with us, and thanks for doing it. Wow, what a great thing.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Story.
Yep. All right, and thanks to everyone for listening.